Can we predict brain health issues ahead of time?
In many cases, yes. I believe strongly in prevention. Obviously, I work at the Alzheimer's prevention clinic, and I think the field is not necessarily, not everybody's on the same page relative to even just using the word prevention. We, at some point, we submitted a paper where we used the word prevention, and two reviewers said, you can't really talk about prevention yet. You have to say risk reduction. We were like, well, yeah, I mean, we can argue whether or not the term is appropriate, but the point is that not everybody in neurology and psychiatry believes that prevention is feasible. However, we are talking about risk reduction, which is already a huge improvement and step forward relative to even just 10 or 8 years ago, where no one would really embrace that concept. And I think it's just so powerful because there is consensus that at least 1/3 of all Alzheimer's cases could be avoided or prevented, perhaps, by really focusing on lifestyle and behavioral modifications. So by doing things like improving your diet, improving your exercise, sleeping more or sleeping better, reducing stress, avoiding toxins, going to the doctor, managing medical conditions that increase the risk of dementia, scientists do agree that all those procedures and interventions substantially lower the risk of Alzheimer's disease and could potentially prevent at least 1/3 of all future Alzheimer's cases. And depending on which report you read, it can be up to half.
Wow.
Which is huge.
Yes.
Right? So Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia in the population. We have almost 6 million Alzheimer's patients in the United States alone. And the idea is that if we don't find ways to reduce the risk, delay the onset, minimize the number of new cases, by the year 2050, we're going to face like 15 million Alzheimer's patients, which is, for context, is the populations of New York City, Los Angeles, and Chicago put together. It's frightening, and it's only in the United States. And something that we don't talk about enough, at least in my opinion, is that almost 2/3 of all those patients are actually women.
Wow.
Yes. So for every man suffering from Alzheimer's, there are 2 women. Wow. So I think it's really important to find prevention strategies that really work for everyone, of course, but we believe that this should be diversified. There are some things that work better for men and some things that work better for women. And we don't talk about the things that work better for women that much. So that's a lot of what I was trying to do in the book.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Because it is a real epidemic, right? What is the latest thinking on Alzheimer's disease then?
So the latest thinking, which is a very recent thinking, I'm going to say 2 years, ballpark, is that Alzheimer's disease can be quite different between the genders, in that men and women may be following somewhat different pathways to brain aging and cognitive decline, where for men, the problem is more cardiovascular in nature, all those things that usually doctors check when you go to the doctor's office: hypertension, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, type 2 diabetes. Those factors seem to really impact risk in men. Whereas for women, and this is a lot of my research is in brain scans, we have shown that the risks are more metabolic and hormonal in nature. Menopause being the number one risk for women, or at least something that we really need to pay attention to, which is, I assure you, no neurologist will ask you about your menopause. I mean, they do, of course, because they have to as part of the routine clinical workup, but OBGYNs look at menopause, neurologists look at brains, and we just don't talk about enough. And we believe that it's really the connection between the brain and the reproductive system that drives, in large part, brain aging in women. Very strange, very strange.